This movie should definitely be remade. I really like what they tried to do here, and I wanted it to continue on. Give us some more Sonny Carson. Guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Tyra here with another struggle review, here to discuss The Education of Sonny Carson. Now, this movie is from 1974 and it stars Rony Clanton. Now, before we get into all things gang, I need you guys to drop down and subscribe to my channel and like this video. I'm going to give you guys a moment to do that, and then we're going to come back and discuss. I feel like I have missed out on something for a long time. Though this movie, may be a lot of things, this is definitely a predecessor to movies like South Central, movies like Licks, and yet and still, I still want it to be remade, and I still want to know so much more about Sonny Carson.
Go back.
Now that you guys have hopefully subscribed to see more of me, let's get into this movie. But before we jump into the video, I have to give a shout out to the person who paid for it and requested this movie. So if you happen to learn something new, it's not because of me, it's because of this person right here. Thank you so much for supporting me and paying for this content. Now, getting into this movie was directed by Michael Campus. He directed this film along with movies like The Mack, aka Goldie, aka I Want to Be Your Mother, Your Father, Your Sister, Your Brother, Your Lover. We're gonna go to the top, baby, but you gotta believe in me. He directed that. But as far as the writer, this story is based on an actual person by the name of Sonny Carson. Robert Sonny Carson was a Brooklyn gang member turned criminal, turned Korean War soldier. After a lot of life experience, he went on to be really involved in his community, lots of activism, founded groups such as the Committee to Honor Black Heroes, the movement against crack. After being a gang member, being in jail, being in the war, he had so much life experience and things that he learned from. And he seemed to be really well-rounded and really involved and dedicated to change in his community, really socially conscious, getting into, politics, all of this injustice. He had a story to tell. There is so much to unfold to get to what exactly happened in Sonny Carson's life as a whole to make him who he eventually became. We do not get all of them here, but there is enough here for this to be very much so the foundation and the predecessor for so many other films to come. I love that it is, based in truth. I love how close it is to, the release of his actual autobiography, which was released in 1972. This is literally 2 years later. And I really love the fact that even though his life was clearly way more than that, and this was used as a learning experience for him, this is one of the first real representations as far as Black culture and gang mentality in a film from what I can see. I did not know about this movie. A lot of movies tend to get lost in the shuffle of that blaxploitation era that had something, more layered to offer outside of, getting whitey. It was movies like this, movies like Coolie High, some of them go unnoticed. The only movie I can think of with any street gang representation at all prior to this one is maybe something like West Side Story. The air is humming and something great is coming. When you're a jet through and through. This is not that. This is definitely not that. And this is a whole market and a whole, inside viewing on something that we got later on so often, especially in the 80s and 90s with movies like Colors, movies like South Central. We see a little bit of that in, movies like Boys in the Hood, even movies like The Outsiders. But a lot of those movies are LA based, and we're getting more in just to the Crips and the Bloods, when previous to all of that, there were so many different gangs around different neighborhoods. Of course, this movie is, based in Brooklyn. I appreciate this movie in the same way that I appreciate movies like Blood In, Blood Out, and American Me. I love when we can start from the beginning. So many later movies just stuck to the status quo. We get more into the 80s and the 90s and maybe even, the early 2000s. But a lot of the times we don't go back to the beginning to see why these gangs started, how they started, and why so many young men gravitated to it. I can appreciate this movie for that, if nothing else. Now, I said all that to say this movie is all over the place. Like, this movie was made for a quarter and a dime, I swear. Though the movie does get its point across, there are so many moments where scenes are left lingering, scenes are cut, dialogue goes nowhere, or nothing's being said, or you don't have a clear trajectory of what's going on. Even with the opening scene of Sonny being awarded at this ceremony, he seems to be one of the few, black children there. There are two parents there supporting him. Like, what is the issue here? Why are we cutting to him robbing a store? Like, for pocket change, child. Like, y'all really was hitting up the store for quarters? Like, but these boys are like, between the ages of maybe 10 and 12. Like, they are really young. But you have to piece together not only the elements that they are in, but the beginning of the movie. Even though he is being awarded and he does seem to have a two-parent household, there are all of these, microaggressions coming at him. If this nigga can make it, anybody can make it. Like, oh, girl, give me the award. And because the movie doesn't give away a whole lot, you need to put together context clues. Even though Sonny is clearly from a two-parent household and he's clearly smart enough to be awarded an award, he is robbing this store with his friends. That was absolutely funny. Like, the boys in the neighborhood, like, I know from a lot of the acting in this movie, they literally got non-actors off the street, but it works here. Like, all of the little boys was giving straight out of Brooklyn ass energy. Like, the young boy who was playing Sonny Carson was some of the best acting in the movie to me. Like, he was really selling it. But since they don't, shoot stuff a certain way, you have to put things together enough to go, though it looks like he shouldn't be robbing this store, the kids are making it a point to go, you know what? I'm opening this jar of pig feet because I have not eaten. And then you have to slowly put things into cue that these kids are in this store because they are poor and they're from poor neighborhoods. Or the fact that they are growing up criminal-minded because they are treated as criminals. No boys, no young man in this movie was treated like a child. I have never heard black bastard so much in my life. Or even get into the fact that, once they get caught robbing this store, even at the young ages that they were at, if Sonny would have kept running and didn't get arrested, the officer probably would have shot him. What bothered me the most about this movie, or, what impacted me the most about this movie wasn't so much, the gang culture. It was mostly the young boys and the young men here and their interaction with law enforcement, how they were treated in the neighborhood, how they were treated in prison, constantly belittled, constantly just chased for who they are, almost feeling like it's their job to strip, torment, and conquer every little black boy that they see out of fear of the black man that they will grow up to be. So if this is what is placed in front of my face every single day of my life, thinking that somebody in a position of authority wants nothing more than just to strictly eradicate me just for being who I am, what am I supposed to do with that as a young man? This is part of the reason why these young men decide to band together. Because I was trying to wrap my mind around, since Sonny has, this support, though they may not have much, he does have a family and he does have a father and a mother who both love him. Emphasis on the father. Why is he gravitating towards a gang when I realized that it's strictly about being a part of a unit and also protection? Though he has a family, he only ever constantly sees hardship and poverty. So the answer to that is to steal. But for stealing, we are thrown into a place all too familiar to prison, a juvenile facility. Like, I have never understood throwing young boys, young girls just in juvenile facilities at such a young age. really gearing them up and preparing them for actual prison, because the mentality is, if I can do a juvenile facility, what exactly is prison? The fine line between those facilities were absolutely thin in this movie. Even when we have him arrive there and there's, somebody in another cell, hey, man, what you doing here, man? You should be at home with your mama. Oh, they running out of niggas to pick up. You shouldn't even be here, man. Like, that whole dark mentality that this teenager already had, that he was gearing towards Sonny as, oh, you should be protected. You should be at home. They're running out of niggas to pick up. Meanwhile, Sonny's all of 13 and this person in this adjacent cell is all of 16. Like, the dark and damaged mentality of, I have to be in hardened mode was in full effect in this movie. I am being locked away. I am being caged, very much so like an animal. I need to be tough. Even with him going in, you have Mary Alice here. She did not have like 2 lines to rub together, but Mary Alice was here in this film. I was happy to see her here. She's portraying the mother, and it's just like, don't let them hurt you. We know what you're gonna go and be up against in there, and it's like, can't nobody hurt me. Nobody. I'm not gonna be afraid of anybody. I'm not gonna allow anybody to break me. And you see that mentality stick with Sonny all the way from 13 to pretty much damn near the end of this movie. All we learned in that juvenile facility as a young black boy was that it's my job to be tough and endure. And of course, we picked up on the gang life. I love when he gets off the little bus. He's like, hey, man, I got a message for Smokey, man. Yeah, give it. No, man, it's Smokey. Give it a message. Nigga, you Smokey? Nigga, give me the message. Man, if you ain't Smokey, then it ain't your motherfucking message. Like, oh, boy, drop a verse real quick. I loved all of Lil Sonny's energy. Like, it was so fire. But we weren't supposed to be focusing on that. We were supposed to be focusing on Sonny getting into this gang. And, you got to go through the windmill. I was like, ooh, you know what? I wonder where the windmill is. Like, oh, the windmill. Wow. We witnessed him get jumped into the gang, and then we jumped to Sonny, the 16-year-old. I was like, wow, every single 16, 17, 18-year-old man on screen at this particular moment, nigga, you clearly 40. Like, oh my God, like, these were the oldest teenagers I've ever seen in my life. But we get to see that being in a gang is really normalized, and Sonny is so eager to join. A lot of us are poor. A lot of us don't have fathers. Some of us are struggling to eat on a day-to-day basis. These are some people who understand. We're going to help each other, and we are going to be accepted. Though Sonny has a really close relationship with his father, looking to his father, he also sees everything that he doesn't want to be. My father, was a little absent because he was working so hard to not even be able to provide us with a whole lot. He's, a junk man. He had to make his own way, and we don't have a lot to show for ourselves. Here with this gang, I have the potential to belong to something and be somebody. Now, the movie does struggle a lot once we get kind of midway through the film and we are introduced to our older gang. Of course, we have Sonny and his gang, and we also have the Hawks. And even though we have the basics in play of, Sonny as well as the other members of the Lords being older, and the inevitable happening, even though the gang means this to us, this is our foundation, our protection, our unity, all of these great things. A lot of times it comes down to trivial things like turf, and then we have the fighting, and then we get more into the violence that these gangs could bring. And knowing that even though these are clearly teenagers, and I like the way that they were portrayed in the film, it's not like super duper violent gang. You see very much so that these are children. Like, you really get Fat Albert, I'm gonna sing a song for you. You really get Fat Albert and the gang vibes from them. Being in this gang is almost a badge of honor. The way that they are depicted in this movie is almost to the liking of a football team, a drill team, a basketball team. It's something to be proud of and stand up and say you're in. Like, despite my neighborhood, I'm a part of something that matters. It's not something that you're ashamed of, something that is looked up on to, you know what, this is going to bring violence, this is going to bring, negativity into the neighborhood. But you do know, with them fighting for their reputations, with turf, all against the Hawks and whatnot, this is going to do nothing but escalate. So you spend a lot of time in this movie with them just going back and forth, and you're just waiting pretty much for the shit to hit the fan between these two really young, impressionable gangs. But the movie truly suffered from not really fleshing up and building up a lot of our characters outside of Sonny. And even sometimes Sonny was a little questionable. I wish we got a little bit more into him and how he was thinking alone. I wish we spent a little more time with him and Lil Boy, especially with what he was supposed to represent within the gang, and just to Sonny, and just in general to the neighborhood. Once we get more into his loss, we have a whole beautiful girlfriend. Like, I had to look up the girlfriend. Her name is Joyce Walker. Her face, she just lit up. I was like, oh my God, this woman is gorgeous. And we like literally gave her 5 lines to breathe. Like, they should have spent, a little bit more time there fleshing out the girlfriend, or even with, the relationship that Sonny has with his dad, or how he really felt. Played here by Paul Benjamin, aka Whispers from Hoodlum, like aka you ain't gonna be shit cause I ain't shit. Like, Paul Benjamin be serving it. Like, I loved all the energy that he brought to this film. Like, there was something really domineering yet like really hurtful with his character. You could see that he was carrying a lot of pain around in the movie from how, his son was turning out. It's pretty much feeling like a failure as a father, and that was like really touching to see. I wish we got more into those dynamics. But on the plus side, we do get unintentional richness from this movie, from things that you probably wouldn't be even paying attention to then. With this movie being from 1974, there is just such a sense of culture and just blackness in this movie, even with them, doing things like riding the ferry, us getting to see the neighborhood, the soundtrack slap, like the whole score and everything for this movie was really, really great. But just to look at things, or even things just surrounding the neighborhoods, the people, their clothes, the buildings, the structure, the parades, it's just like, damn, gentrification really happened. Like, you really get to see the richness within the neighborhood before things like gentrification took place as to where we are now. There's this different element to it. Like, it's absolutely missing. And we also get richness just out of the dialogue, even though it is not the best acting. Like, just the scenes of the lords interacting with the hogs. She's like, yeah, man, you bump me, man. Nah, man, you move out my way when you see me coming by, sucker. Yeah, we can get it, man, anytime, any place, anywhere, man. Yeah, like carrying sticks, rocks, and chains. This is eventually gonna escalate to, somebody having a knife and somebody having a gun. And I also like just how rich the neighborhood was. Like, even though it was clearly, a poor neighborhood, we do see that the gang and their interactions with each other is undercutting the culture that is happening. Like, we trying to have a good time. We trying to have parades. We trying to have picnics and shit in the park. And here y'all go breaking out into these fights. And then, we add in that other element of the goddamn cops who want nothing more than just for all of them to just go away. Like, the treatment from the officers in this movie was crazy. That one particular officer who practically had a vendetta against Sonny was absolutely ridiculous. We even have, when he goes to juvenile, we have the judge say, if I ever see him or catch him again, I'm gonna throw him away, for life. There is essentially a target on a bunch of these young men's back based off a lot of these officers' personal petty ass agendas. Like, how dare you try to beat on what you cultivated? The gangs, the neighborhood, the mentality that they have, feeling like, it's us against them. It's up to us to protect each other. This is from the police and their behavior around the neighborhood. And then you send us to fucking jail, juvenile facilities, cultivating what we're building up, and being strong, being tolerant, having a high tolerance for pain, enduring. Like, I'm not, going to show weakness. That's a sign of fear. I have to be tough. This is what you are building up when you send these young men to, juvenile facilities, or, harass them 24/7 around the neighborhood, always assuming that they are up to no good. And yet and still we try to beat that out of them. Like, we are trying to beat out the tolerance and the strongness in them, and the fact that they couldn't break somebody like Sonny bothered this one fucking officer to no end in this movie. But outside of really great scenes like, yeah, I don't know nothing about no rumble, like, you sure you don't know because your eye look like you know, like, the movie kind of shows that even though Sonny, you know, was all heart, like, he really didn't have the heart for what, you know, some gangs were willing to do. Wolf was about that life. Like, Wolf was waiting to catch a body. Like, he was waiting, but Sonny was more so, you know, oh, there's, you know, a certain time and a place for everything. And even when it is, you know, that time and that place, we about, you know, using our hands. I'm not really trying to kill anybody. Wolf was just waiting on an opportunity. He got to die. I gotta take him off of here. Yeah, that's right. You know, sucker think he can whoop me, man. This whole stylish chump. Like, man, this was not about to be a fair fight. I was all for a little snagger tooth in the front. We need to take our shit over there as well, because them niggas do not fight fair. And he was not prepared to fight fair and stabbed little boy in the back. Like, that was something that the gang was not ready for, especially when we get into Sonny with little boy being his best friend. By the time we get into the whole funeral scene in that goddamn Lord, who killed little boy? I forgot what year we were in. I forgot what, you know, time this movie was from, and the portrayal of pastors was on Lord abuse and desert ya. We can't wait. Like, that is just not my forte. But beyond the wow, Lord, geez, like, beyond all of that, if you really listen, I really love the nuance in what Lil Boy was supposed to represent. I actually like the fact that his name was Lil Boy, because he could be a representation for all little boys who are lost. Within the game, he is supposed to represent this vibrant star. You know, he's just so happy, just so joyous, and it's just like, this is what's being stripped away. I really love the softer, more angelic scene. We have this really beautiful score in the background where Lil Boy, they sit on the stoop and he asks, you know, what do you guys want to be? And we see that they all have their own separate ambitions, but most of it is escapism and getting away from everything that they're surrounded by. And you have Little Boy say, you know, I want to get a plane. I'm going to get a plane and I'm going to fly high above everything. I'm going to fly into the sun. Even though we get, you know, more comical stuff. Yeah, man, I'm going to be Captain, man, Queen Mary, man. Like, you're like, was he high then? Like, I needed his energy to not give, you know, I'm high right now, when they are having this Queen Mary, man, yes I can, like, oh my goodness. Or even when we have, you know, JoJo say, you know, I want to be, you know, the greatest dancer, or, you know, he snaps it back and goes like, you know what, or maybe I'll just be a pimp. A lot of their influences and how they feel about what they can and can't do is due to their surroundings. There is, you know, constantly somebody surrounding them saying what they aren't allowed to be and what they aren't allowed to do. Even when we get into Sonny and he roll up on what looks to be a couple of pimps, you know, you gotta hold it in, man. Let me show you how to smoke it, man. Like, oh my God, so much comedy here. But these are the men that the guys are looking up to in the neighborhood, and they find it pretty comical that Sonny's dad just happens to be a junk man. They don't see it as, you know, an honorable way to live. Like, oh, he's a junk man. That's absolutely comical. Sonny literally sees no option. So when it comes to something as simple as him feeling like they really need to be able to pay respects to Lil Boy properly and get him a flower bouquet, it's just like, we can never have anything. Even in death, we can't even afford to properly put flowers on his casket. So the only option he feels like he has is to go out and rob somebody. How much you got? I mean, I'm gonna get in trouble, man. I can't. How much you got? Like, oh my goodness, the acting was sending me. It was sending me. But this pretty much gets him arrested and sent to jail, and he is ratted out by one of his own. I love how they show, like, the cops here just was a hot funky ass mess. The way that they were treating everybody, the tactics that they used to go about getting confessions, like, there were no no, we just beating confessions out of everybody. We're intimidating confessions out of everyone. We are using, you know, somebody's addiction against them to drop a dime on somebody. Like, just absolutely terrible. But I do love that brief moment of peace, you know, once we remember, like, oh, he has a girlfriend. Let's put her in the scene. Once again, she was absolutely beautiful. Just them finding peace and solace in those few brief moments of just having the window open. You know, it looked like they just got through having sex, and just having the rain come down, just finding anything that they could find just to have some sentiment of peace. It was beautiful and really sad at the same time. Just feeling like, you know what, if anybody was gonna, you know, die or anybody, you know, lose their life, why did it have to be little boy? Why did it have to be him? What does that mean for us? It's just almost like there's no hope. Let's just get peace in what we have now. But it's basically too late for any of that, because Sonny is arrested and beaten like within an inch of his life for $100. I was like, oh my God, they are treating this $100 like it is just full-blown bank robbery. Like, I kind of kept getting confused as to how much time had went by and exactly how old he was. But even at this point, I don't even believe he was 18, you know, not even 19 years old. He's still pretty much a young man, and he is just being beat. Like that whole beating scene like bothered me the most. First of all, the effects for this to be 1974, especially when we get a look at Sonny's face, you know, when he's being arrested and you see that light flash, like the imagery was really, really good. The effects were really good because he looked hurt as hell. But just how relentless that officer was, just because he couldn't break him, like it pissed him off for him to just have that much pride in the fact that not only am I never going to tell you guys what you want to hear, but you are never going to break me. And this just pissed this officer off. But we pretty much have Sonny have a revelation once he eventually returns to jail and he sees somebody still there, Willie, that he saw when he was first arrested years ago as a juvenile. Now, it's already a sad scene from the time that he is arrested, even getting there. I love the imagery that we get on the car ride there after the arrest of, you know, pretty much what he feels like he's leaving behind, especially when we know that just in a short amount of time, that is not what he's going to come back to. You know, the gang and the friends, the girlfriend that he is leaving is not going to be there when he comes back. But even when we got into the little psychological part of the check-in, like the questions that the doctor was, would you jack off? You ever thought about screwing your mother? Like, what exactly do you think is wrong with me? Like, what kind of questions are these? Like, that kind of threw me for a loop. Like, what? That, along with the really beautiful scene that we get when his dad comes to visit him, and he's still trying to put up that strong front as if everything is okay. I'm okay, nothing can touch me. And his dad is just so devastated and so disappointed to the point like he just can't even look his son in the face, and he's crying for him to look at him. I was like, oh my God, this is so sad. This is so sad. But it's not even just like I can't bear to see you behind bars in this element. Just that sinking feeling that the dad felt this entire movie, just like, I failed my son. Look at what you've become. Look at what you are. Despite, all my efforts, I just couldn't save you. Like, that disappointment, like that's really like torture. That was really sad. But even more than that, being, really educating him, Willie, who had, gained some time. When we get into Willie's character, we really get into how the system can work out for many people. Like, sometimes, we don't find our way out. Sometimes we are tormented, beaten, given more time and way more limitations in here than we ever got on the outside that restrict us from ever getting out. And I get, years and years piled on. This is not built, for us to succeed and get out and go on. This is built to keep us under, keep us struggling. And I am not surviving here. By the time we have Sonny eventually get there, Willie has already pretty much given up. And all that strength and endurance that Sonny thought he had in himself, that Sonny thought, all that mattered, the gang, once we get out, it's just all about, enduring. And here you have somebody in your face who you thought was the strongest of the strong telling you, I cannot do this anymore. And he is just pretty much just ready to go. Like, when we have, Willie's life taken, the way that it's taken, or just what he really represented to Sonny and what he really represented in the jail, you can see that this affects, more than just him. It affects all of them. And it's just like we are fighting a losing battle. We are not so much so in confrontation with each other. Prison is imperfect, but the main conflict here are guards who are sent here to, delegate and protect, are really, really abusing their power, and they are really physically and mentally killing us. And we just see how this affects him. Now, the question was throughout the movie, is this situation going to break him? We have him pretty much serve his time. He has a year or so in jail. And when he is up for parole, I was like, oh man, like, just tell these people what they want to hear. We want you to get out. to see that no matter what, it's like, you're not gonna break me. I'm not bowing to anybody just because I am in jail, just because I've been arrested. I've served my time. I am not gonna grovel at anybody's feet. I'm not gonna, incriminate myself or demean myself in any way just to tell you what you want to hear so I can get out. Am I not still a man? I was like, yeah. I just wanted so badly for him to get out at that point and go on. But the fact that he still stood strong after everything that he had seen, everything that he had went through up until that point, and as much as he wanted to go home and see his mother, see his father, he still was like, I don't give a damn, like, y'all ain't breaking me. And I was just really thinking about the things that we didn't get to see in this movie, him go on, be in the army, or be, more of an activist, all of that persistence and all of that energy that he had. I'm sure that what we see here, it was used and directed into everything that he went on to do afterwards, because he was such a strong-minded person, which is put to the test immediately after he is released. The first time as a kid, when we have him released, he falls right into, everything with everybody else in joining a gang. And at this particular moment, every single person is literally on heroin. Everybody is on drugs, and he could have got out and succumbed to everything else and just fell into place and been doing those same drugs with everybody else. I love when he comes home is to open arms and his family, and he has that really brief but great talk with his dad to let him know, you know what, I love you, Dad, despite everything, or how you may, feel about how I turned out, or, feeling like you may be the one to blame. I get everything. I get why you work so hard. Nothing would have made a difference. Everything that I did it on my own accord. You shouldn't feel any shame in that. I thought that was a beautiful talk, but we really get to see like the neighborhood just completely diminishing. It's like, I was not gone for that long. Everybody is either, the gang is no longer existing. Everybody's either in jail, everybody's either on drugs, and everybody is just so broken. There is, no more dreams. This beautiful, Lord, what it once was, it's not that at all. And even more than that, in every, hood movie, we have to return to the girlfriend. Like, girl, not you. She was so beautiful. She is, no longer that reserved, peaceful, beautiful woman. Right now, she has succumbed to drugs also. And she is literally taunting him, calling his name. Just join us, just fall in. This will make all your pain go away, just like it did for, the rest of us. But he decides to, travel a different road. I love how when, she overdoses, she just looks terrible. But as soon as he, checks her in, she's beautiful again. But we really have him in the end make his decision to, this is not going to be the path for me. I'm going to choose different. I learned from every life experience and took something away from everything I went through, everybody I lost, and I want to do something different. And of course, by that time we have him take off the necklace and the credits roll. I was like, damn, I want to go see what he did. I would love to get a separate movie or a remake of this just to show us what he went on to do and how he implemented certain things, or his experience in the army, what he took away from that, because I don't believe that was quite the experience that he thought it would be. And just returning home from that, it made him want to get more involved in his own community and the activism and everything, and how he decided to change his name, raise his children, all those good things that are layered in the book that we just did not have time for in this movie. There is so much more to say about a character like this, and I think it's really needed today, despite how old this movie is. Of course, a lot of stuff here is unfortunately really relevant, and we still need these type of messages today to know that you can go on and do more. So we need more Sonny Carson out here. Well, you guys, that was my review for The Education of Sonny Carson. I hope you enjoyed it. Please drop down and tell me what you thought about it. Have you ever seen this film? Because this was my first time. If so, drop down, tell me your favorite scenes, what you took away. And if you haven't, drop down and let me know if you care to watch it. It is available right here on YouTube. I look forward to reading you guys' comments. Thank you so much for watching this video. I appreciate it so much. I see you guys next time. Bye.